Detroit Lions fans, I am telling you right now, Hendon Hooker is the most important piece of this Detroit Lions team for the summer. For the summer, training camp, joint practices, preseason games. Hendon Hooker, all eyes, all hands on deck. We all have to be paying attention. And I'm going to tell you guys why. I have a question for you at the end of this episode that even I don't have the answer to. I'm looking for some guidance. I'm looking for some insight at the end. I will let you know what the question is. Stick around, but I have to talk about Hendon Hooker real quick. Just the other day, I did an episode on Jameson Williams, and I said I think we broke the record for longest streak without talking JMO. I think I could say the same about Hendon Hooker. We were always talking about that quarterback battle, what the future is, what's going on. Hint, hint. There's a little nugget for you, a little Easter egg that I just left. But up until that Jared Goff contract was signed, we were talking Hendon quite a bit. Jared Goff signs his contract. We talked about Hendon Hooker, what might be one quick second. We moved on, put it to bed. No need to talk about it. But this training camp, joint practices with these other teams that we're facing, and preseason games, my only thing I need to see from Hendon Hooker, and I'm going to get to that in a second, but he is the most important piece for this Detroit Lions roster. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's an important season. It's an important season. This is the first real chance we're getting to look at Hendon Hooker in a football environment. All of 2023, the only reps he got were mental reps. Hey, that's no knock on it. Getting in those classrooms, doing the film study, the team meetings, all that. That's all he could really do. Maybe some walkthroughs on game day, real light, without any injury restrictions or whatnot from that ACL injury that he had when he was back at Tennessee. So that's the only time Hendon Hooker really got any reps. Were all just mental ones, and that's important too. Mental is a big part of this game, but to see it physically, we're going to get a chance this summer, just a couple weeks away. Really just less than a week. It is Thursday. I'm going to get you guys to the weekend. I got this episode. I've been waiting. I've had this one in my back pocket for a while, guys. I'm excited, if you can't tell, to get a look at Hendon Hooker. This was a kid coming out of college who was potentially a Heisman Trophy winner. He was in that top 5 voting for quite a while until he hurt his knee. I think it was against South Carolina late in the season, his final year at Tennessee. This is a first-round talent, a lot of people were saying, and I'd have to agree. I'd have to go back and look at the draft class. I can't remember exactly which quarterbacks were in that class. I think it was Bryce Young. I can't remember. C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson. They're really coming to me now. But would I put Hendon Hooker in the same breath as them? Absolutely, I would. Will Levis? Absolutely. I know Will Levis wasn't in the first round. I think Hendon Hooker was a first-round talent that the Detroit Lions got in the 3rd round, a kind of quote-unquote project player. But really, this project player was just kind of having to recover from for health reasons, kind of like we saw with Jameson Williams. I'm excited in the aspect of preseason football because I've told you guys many, many times, Hendon Hooker, his job and what he does impacts more than just him. It impacts the offensive linemen trying to make the team. It impacts running backs trying to make the team, and wide receivers trying to make the team. In 2023, we're stuck with quarterback play in the preseason, a heavy dose of Adrian Martinez and Nate Sudfeld, who's still on the team. But I've told you this whole preseason, every single preseason game, I need to see Hendon Hooker for 3 quarters, 2.5 quarters. I need to see him maybe halfway through the 3rd. Then we can pull him out, get a look at Nate Sudfeld, even though I think we can kind of close the book on Nate Sudfeld. We know what he can and cannot do. Not going to throw any shade. He's a Detroit Lion, so I'm pulling for him as QB3, but I need to see Hendon Hooker play. I've talked all year, all season, all offseason, every single episode that I've talked about is guys fighting for position battles, fighting for roster spots. We have to have good quarterback play. It's literally the most important piece on a football field. There's only 2 people who are guaranteed to touch a football every single snap, the center and the quarterback. The quarterback makes the decisions. Center is just as important. They're responsible for a lot too, but quarterbacks, you get all the glory and you get all the shame. So it's an important piece. So what I'm looking for is his training camp and preseason games. It's just, there's a lot of guys who are dependent on Hendon Hooker. Offensive line with protection, receivers, running backs, like I said, all that. It needs to be high-level quarterback play from Hendon Hooker. I'm going to tell you guys what's important for me personally that I want to see from Hendon Hooker this preseason and in games. Listen, I know he can hit Jameson Williams on a 60-yard bomb any day of the week. That's not going to impress me. I've seen Hendon Hooker do it in college, hit wide open receivers. So him hooking up with JMO on a 60-yard play, like I know a lot of people will get excited if it happens. What I would rather see is Hendon Hooker take this offense on some sustained drives. Let's put together 9, 10, 11, 12 play drives. Be consistent. Work with your receivers. Hit every single route on the route tree. In routes, out routes, slants, hooks, curls, deep posts, skinny posts. I want to see Hendon Hooker and these receivers working all the routes, get down the field, score some points. I don't care if he can hit Jamison Williams on a 60-yard bomb. I know he can do it. It's exciting to watch, but I need to see actual quarterback play from Hendon Hooker. Most of the time, those types of plays are because of blown coverage. Like, it's fun to see. Trust me, I'll stand up, clap, cheer. It's fun. But I would rather see Hendon Hooker take this offense, do some checking at the line, some wide receivers. Hitting these narrow passing windows is more important to me. The game within the game, like, I think we get wrapped up in fantasy football talk, and those long, deep plays, they're exciting to see. But I want to see him kind of channel his inner Jared Goff. Let's go on some drives of up to 15 plays. Let's try to beat the shit out of this defense mentally, physically. Let's try to wear them down in that aspect. One play of 65, 70, whatever it may be yards isn't going to wear down a defense. And I'm not saying that that's the most important thing. Like, we're not in a boxing match or anything like that, even though that kind of gets related sometimes. But I want to see Hendon Hooker really put drives together. I want to see him connecting with wide receivers in small windows like we see Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown do all the time, where maybe it doesn't even look like there's a window, and sometimes it gets squeezed in there and we get a hell of a play. Those are the kind of drives I want to see with Hendon Hooker. Put it together. I think that's more important to see than a monster play. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments too, because trust me, guys, I'm all for whatever scores Detroit Lion points. I'm not going to nitpick, but for training camp, preseason games where it quote unquote doesn't really matter, those are the stuff that we have to watch for. That's what I like to watch for. Like, it's cool to see. It's fun to talk about. Let's see. I'd be more excited talking about Hendon Hooker leading the Lions offense on a 15-yard scoring drive than a one-play 80-yard drive with a touchdown to Jamison Williams. Like, don't get me wrong. And if it's real football, if we get to that situation where something happens to Goff and Hooker has to come into the game in the season, I'm all for it then. But in these preseason games, I'd much rather see it that way. Next, I'm going to talk about some strengths of Hendon Hooker. Listen, this guy's off the charts, man. He's got it all. I'm not going to say he doesn't at a college level. Got to see how it translates. What I really, really, really love about Hendon Hooker is how well he takes care of the football. If you go back and you look at his stats from college, a 4-year kind of starter, he got some significant playing time his first couple years at Virginia Tech, and then he transferred to Tennessee, and that's where he really started to shine. But he takes care of the football. Only 12 interceptions in 4 seasons. And I know he played 5, but that first season he was mostly used as kind of like a gadget quarterback at Virginia Tech. Once he really started airing it out and throwing the football, only 12 interceptions in 4 years. If you do your math, that's only 3 interceptions a year on average. So this kid takes care of the football. He throws it with this kid's got a rocket of an arm. Like, when we talk about me and Will, when we get on here, and I remember one day we were having a discussion on who has the strongest arm in the NFL, and I think we both, without a doubt, said it was probably Josh Allen. If Hendon Hooker becomes a starting quarterback in this NFL, you're going to be talking about him as having one of the strongest arms in the NFL as well. Like, he's got that kind of a cannon on him. And he's a nice changeup from Jared Goff. A changeup as in he does everything that Jared Goff can't do, but Jared Goff is an assassin when it comes to reading defenses. Hendon Hooker is more athletic. He's mobile. He can extend plays. Like I said, his first couple of years at Virginia Tech, they used him as a heavy read option quarterback where he would run dudes over. When he got to Tennessee, they kind of toned that back a little bit, but I mean, he could still run. They just didn't use him on designed runs as much. I'm not saying he didn't do it at all. There's clips out there of him at Tennessee on some QB draws. I know I've seen them. I've looked it up. I've done my homework. I'm just saying they don't do it as much. And that's how I prefer it. I want you to be a threat with your legs, but I don't want you to use them unless you have to. Like let's just use Cam Newton as an example. The dude was a monster for a couple of years, for a little while. He started to get some injuries because they ran him into the dirt with some of the stuff that Carolina used to do. And he might not ever admit it, but that was a big boy and he would take a pounding. And the refs would kind of let defenses get away with a little more because of how big Cam Newton was, but that stuff ended up wearing on him later in his career. I really truly think that that's a fact. So Hendon Hooker is a changeup from Jared Goff. Jared Goff, you give him time in the pocket, he's going to pick you apart. Hendon Hooker, if things start to break down, he can move a little bit, he can scramble, he can extend plays, he can chuck it 85 yards without even blinking an eye. He's a change up from Jared Goff, and that's a good thing. We have two very complementary and different quarterbacks, but we know JG's quarterback one. We're not even here to debate that. We're just talking Hendon Hooker. My only weakness, and I don't even know if you want to count this as a weakness, is I just want to see his game translate to the NFL level. That's all I've ever said. That's my only argument. I know what he could do in college. I know that a lot of guys come from college who have won Heisman trophies and all kinds of award. You know, you lead the SEC in rushing or whatever, and you come to the NFL, it's a big man's game. It's a grown man's game. Everyone's big. Everyone's fast. These are grown men who get paid to do this for a living now, not a college kid who goes out and has to study for 30 hours a week, has a girlfriend and personal life. These guys focus on football. There's millions of dollars on the lines for these players. My only question, and I don't even really want to call it a weakness, I just want to see how his game translates to the NFL. And we're going to get a decent idea of that in a couple weeks. So here's my question in closing, guys. I told you I had a good question for you guys at the beginning of this episode. Hopefully you stuck around because I want you guys to answer this. I do not have the answer myself. Is Hendon Hooker the future of the Detroit Lions when Jared Goff's contract expires? This is our first glimpse at that answer. And I've told you guys in a previous episode about the contracts and how they don't exactly line up. Hendon Hooker can test free agency before Jared Goff's contract is up. So if Hendon Hooker plays well, why would he want to stay in Detroit if he's playing well, but he thinks he can go somewhere else and start? There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of X factors to that question, and it's really going to depend on how Jared Goff's playing 3 or 4 years from now. I understand. But right now, today, leave it in the comments. Is Hendon Hooker the quarterback of the Detroit Lions going forward in the future in about 3 or 4 years? Leave it in the comments. Hit that like button. Stick around, guys. I'll be back later with another show.